In this clip, Jeffrey Wilhelm thinks about his own teaching, about the power of problem-solving, decision-making, using information to make sense of the world, to investigate the world, to engage in inquiry. And fortunately enough, you young people are able to see this clip and see teachers thinking out loud about what they're doing. This is an unusual way for students to watch teachers, but what do you think about that?
One time, right in the clip, he said that I taught the kids about voices, but the kids taught me on how powerful the voices are. And when he said that, it made me just think that that's completely true.
And teaching goes two ways. The teacher can teach, but if there's no one to listen, then that's not really effective.
It really makes you feel like what you say matters, and that you're not just some other student, that you have an identity in this class, and that the teacher recognizes you.
Let's watch the clip now of Jeffrey Wilhelm thinking about his teaching, thinking about you, and thinking about learning.
The 21st century is going to demand a problem-solving mentality and problem-solving capacities. This whole notion that we're taught and learn information is going by the wayside because information is doubling, some people say, every 6 months. And information is being supplanted. And we used to think Pluto was a planet, and now we think it's not. Information is no good in a world like this. The only thing worth learning is learning how to learn. And obviously, we want to be able to learn with the computer, which is the world's greatest research resource and the world's greatest construction kit, but we got to use the computer and electronic technologies that way. We want to learn in multiple modalities that aren't necessarily electronic, like the drama was a multimedia way of learning today. It was a way of getting outside your own perspective and entering other perspectives. It was a way of trying on different voices and listening to different voices. So we need these problem-solving literacies and these problem-solving capacities and this willingness to solve problems. The issues that are facing this generation can't be solved with the current knowledge base. It's going to require a huge shift in the way we think, in the way we educate, in the way we do business. And so you've got to cultivate those problem-solving capacities. If you want kids to solve problems, you got to give them problems to solve and then a system to solve them. If you want kids to take on other perspectives, you got to ask them and put them into situations where they have to enter into other perspectives. If you want kids to articulate their own critical standards and apply them, then you got to stop grading the papers and you got to involve the kids in articulating the criteria and applying them. The assessment you do doesn't contribute to the learning then. George Hillocks at the University of Chicago did a review of research and found that all the time we spend grading tests and papers does not lead to learning at all. The only time assessment leads to learning is when it's in the context of use and is provided at the point of need. In other words, when the kids are doing something and you can go, okay, I liked what you did here, but here's something else we need to work on. You noticed me doing that between the poems. And that happened in a lot of smaller ways throughout the lesson where I was trying to learn from the kids every step of the way how to teach them better. And you got to be doing that every minute of every day. You got to be doing that in every lesson. I like doing things like drama. I like doing things like think-alouds. I like doing things like visualization strategies because they provide me with immediate feedback about what the kids know, what they're learning, what they don't have yet, and that informs my instruction. I changed that lesson plan several times during the course of the lesson. And in fact, I did away with the major thing I was going to do, which was a think-aloud, because I liked where things were going and I saw the possibilities of continuing. I'm just totally compelled that the problems that are facing these kids and are facing the world that they're in and are going to grow up in can't be solved by a single-minded focus from a single discipline. The questions are interdisciplinary, the answers are interdisciplinary. You notice we dealt today with a lot of historical figures, but we did drama with them. We dealt with historical events, but we looked at poems and wrote poems about those things. So, we were getting a lot of integration in the lesson of content areas, of different knowledge bases. Again, I was very much trying to integrate what they thought and knew and believed and cared about with the material of the curriculum and apply that back to life in ways that might transform the way they're going to act in the future. I love the group that talked about how sometimes you have to invite other people to speak, and that they then brainstorm the ways in which you could invite people and the ways that you would keep inviting them and keep putting the invitations out. You know, if that's something they carry forward into their personal relationships and into their work life, they've learned something today, and maybe Place held something today that will be of great use to them throughout the rest of their lives and of great use to everybody they interact with. So, you know, I think that's how integration works on a lot of different levels. You integrate the content areas, but you try to integrate the kids' lived reality with the material, the curriculum, with the world. And that's how kids get to the point where they can transfer what they learned because they see the purpose of what they've learned, not just in a disciplinary sense, but in the sense of their personal lives and the sense of the problems facing the world and how they might have a part to play in addressing and solving those problems. I thought the kids had a great sense of agency already, and I was just really trying to promote that. You know, what things can we do to give ourselves a voice and help other people have a voice, and they really took up that baton. There's been many studies in cognitive science, going back to Dewey and his student Ralph Tyler, that shows that when people learn the what, when they're taught the what, they forget everything. You could get 100% on an information-driven test, and 2 weeks later have a 0 on the same test, and have understood absolutely nothing. But if you teach kids the how, then the kids will necessarily learn the what, because you can't learn how to give voice to the voiceless unless you study the voiceless and how people are silenced throughout history and how they were silenced in particular historical situations or particular stories. And the kids learned those things, and they were able to transmute all of that into real-world action projects and strategies for their own lives. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens because you're not teaching information, and you don't construe your job at teaching information. You construe your job as teaching specific human beings how to do disciplines, how to read, how to problem solve, how to think historically. We have to keep our eyes on the prize. What is it we're really after? What are the real standards? And I would argue the real standards are we want democratic citizens who can solve problems and enter other perspectives and respect other people and that kind of thing, who can be thrifty with the environment, understand the limits of a time and place, who are able to re-gauge and reframe and redo what they're doing. And all those things we are practicing today because we are doing inquiry into real-world issues that apply to the kids.
Well, there you go. Any new surprises for you? That it's a process, this teaching-learning dynamic.
And a lot of times when you see a teacher, you usually think that what they're trying to teach is all from the curriculum, but when a teacher or an educator gets really calm and interested in their students, they can then understand that sometimes you have to bend and twist the curriculum to kind of still make it fit, but be assured that the kids will have fun doing it and understand it while they're going along.
Thank you. And what about you? Were you surprised that teachers think out loud like that?
They're thinking just as hard as the students are.